Australia.
Yes.
Yes, Melbourne, Sydney. I loved it.
Yes.
Americans love Australians.
Yes, so we're here. So,
Yeah.
which is good. I mean, I've been to the US a couple of times, and beautiful country too. It's interesting how different countries has a whole different feel about it. It's so uniquely them. The deserts and it's just amazing what you have across the US. So, all right, so we're streaming live. Let's go ahead and record and dive into this great topic.
You're listening to another ambitious Entrepreneur Network.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
Welcome to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, daily conversations with Christian entrepreneurs to inspire and empower Christian business owners to walk strongly in their faith, while build a thriving business that honors Him in every way. Now, over to your host, Anne-Marie Cross.
And welcome to another episode of the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is episode 72, and I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross, the podcasting queen. Now, my guest today says, do not try to be all things to all people, or guess what? You become nothing to anyone. Focus like a laser on your niche and be really clear on what you stand for. So very important. Joining me on today's show is Craig Wolfe. Craig is the largest publisher of artwork from television commercials, creating the first ever animation outlines for Coca-Cola, Anheuser-Busch, M&M and Mars, etc. Wow, what a background. Now, eventually he sold it all off to create CelebriDucks, which was a whole new art form of celebrity rubber ducks of the greatest icons of film, music history, and athletics. Now, they were voted one of the top 100 gifts by Entertainment Weekly and were featured on hundreds of TV shows, magazines, and newspapers. Now, on today's show, Craig is going to consider what success truly means. Money is only as good as the good you can do with it. How to successfully run a business with modest resources, yet have it scale and be successful as major players in your industry, as well as how you can take your passion and use it to create not just financial success, but an emotionally awarding or rewarding life altogether. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Very happy to be here.
Wow, that is a really impressive background there. Take us back, if you will, as you were building up your business, being the largest publisher of artwork from television commercials, the very first animation outlines for Coca-Cola. Could I say that you almost disrupted the industry then, having that first ever animation that you did for Coca-Cola?
Yeah, and a little bit we did actually, because, before us, you had Disney, who was marketing their artwork, their animation cells, which are the actually scenes from their original cartoons. And you could buy those and hang those on your wall. And nobody, funny enough, had thought to do it with art from the actual television commercial. And in the US anyway, I don't know in Australia as much, but the Coke Bears were becoming so popular. I mean, they were just becoming huge. And then the Budweiser lizards, the frogs, and the Pillsbury Doughboy. There were all these iconic characters that were just, the M&Ms were huge. Yes. And, for me in business, and if you ever want to talk about it in the interview, we can get into it later, but I never really had direction in terms of where I was going to make money. I've always only been able to move if I'm like really inspired by something. And I go, oh, that's what I'll do for a living.
Yes.
And one day, where I got the idea, I was literally walking by a Macy's, which is a big department store in the US. They had this in their window. They had all these old Coke machines, they're like those vending machines and the old Coke bottles and glass before all the plastic and picnic baskets, and had that whole old time feel. And it was like an epiphany hit me. I go, why? Look at the good feeling people feel about Coke, refreshment, quench all their marketing for over 100 years. I go, why don't we do with Coke what they did with Disney and everyone else? So that was where the inspiration actually came from.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how a whole business can come about from tapping or allowing yourself to tap into that creativity. And I think, you're an absolute creative, and how often it's so important to recognize our style of how we do our best work, the environment, that we don't try and box ourselves into rules because people say you have to do this or you have to do that. I'm a bit of a rebel myself, rebellious, in that if someone says to me, no, you can't do it that way, it's like, well, just watch me, or you'll find a different way that really, fits in with your style. And it's so important because it allowed you to do that. Now, then you obviously transitioned, you sold that off and then created CelebriDucks. Or CelebriDucks. Did that come about through something similar, or take us on that journey, how you came
well,
to
it's
that?
really funny, like I was saying, only when I really get inspired do I kind of, do, like, I graduated college to my mother's, total consternation. She goes, what's he going to do? I mean, I graduated with an English degree, English and religion, actually, a double major, and I didn't have the slightest idea, Anne-Marie, not the slightest idea whatsoever to do with the degree. And one day I walked into a store, and hanging on the wall was a picture of Mickey Mouse. Now, it was one of those pencil drawings that they use in the animation. So when you see those Disney cartoons, it all starts with pencil drawings by the key animators. Then they paint them, and they go through the whole process. But it all begins with that line drawing. That's what the key animators did first, not the color, the pencil drawings. Mm-hmm. I saw it on the wall, and they said it's from the 1935, the original drawing used in the cartoon. I said, you could own those things? The man said, yes, you can. I go, that's what I want to do. And that's how I began my animation business, buying and selling animation art, going to LA and finding where you could find these drawings, and people had them squirreled away in their homes and closets and stuff. And that's what became Name That Tune, my animation business. And then I expanded, as I told you, into the Coca-Cola and all the other stuff. So for the Ducks, in answer to your question, it was a little bit similar. I mean, it was at a party. A friend had an idea, now to be honest with you, drunk, and I'm sure I was not drunk. No. Just drunk. And I'm sure 90% of the people, 99 who heard this idea would have said, not a good idea. And he said, what about if you made rubber ducks that look like celebrities? And come on, I'm convinced everyone said, yeah, well, and I go, that's different. I wonder, I can see it, in my mind, and that's the thing about entrepreneurs. They can see what other people can't see. And so if you try and ask people it's a good idea, 99% of the best ideas, they'll tell you no, because it hasn't happened. There's no background for it. So entrepreneurs kind of see ahead of the curve a little bit. But I already had money from the animation business. It was doing very well. So I called King Features. They own the rights to Betty Boop. I suspect you know her down there. And the lady with the red hair and the black, the red dress, the black hair, very popular cartoons in the U.S. And I said, I want to make a Betty Boop rubber duck. I got the head of licensing for North America on the phone. I could tell right away. They thought they had, kind of a person who was a little bit crazy. They couldn't get me off the phone quick enough. Make your little Betty Boop duck. You get back in touch with us. Really, they just wanted to hang out. They never hear from me. But somehow I figured out how to get one made overseas, and I sent it to them. And then one morning I come in and there's a light on the phone, a message. I said, this is Ethan from King Features. We got your little Betty Boop duck. It's really cute. Let's talk.
Wow.
That was it. It's the beginning, the first one. I just retired this year.
Yes. Amazing. It is amazing.
21 years later, I just retired her.
Oh, you know what's really interesting about this? I mean, how many, if we take it back to the situation where you were with your friend who had a few too many drinks, had an idea, that how many people often, whatever. But many ideas, if they've been followed up and, the process correctly and the right people, could be the next idea that just takes off.
And that's why I'm sorry, Anne-Marie.
No. I was going to say, no, go ahead, because this is you've lived this journey, and I'm sure there's insights that you can share. Like, don't listen to what other people are telling you or not telling you.
Exactly. You have to, and this is really key for entrepreneurs. Do not work in a vacuum. You must have a trusted group. It could be one person, it could be two people, but people who are brutally honest with you and will always give you the feedback that no one else will, good and bad. So if you always want to have that little network, everybody, not just work in your home by yourself. You have to have that, even if you're at home by yourself, you have to have that trusted confidant somewhere.
Yes.
And the other thing is, you really have to trust your instincts yourself. Some people have bad instincts. That's why you need that group to run your ideas by. But, we had, I was watching a movie the other day called Scully. I don't know if you remember, but we had a plane land on the Hudson River in New York.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it was an amazing story. He realized he could not make that plane go back to the airport.
Yeah.
And he had to land it right then and there. They dragged him through the mud on that, the FAA, if you ever saw the movie, because they said, you could have made it back. And then Scully said a line, which I say to every entrepreneur. He had trusted his instincts. He did not go by what the instruments were saying. He just knew it would not make it back to the airport, despite when they redid it in computer models and said you could have. And they said, what you did was unprecedented. And then he gave that great line. He said, everything is unprecedented until it's done for the first time.
Yes.
So there was no context to see. And then later on, they did find out when they researched it further, he couldn't have made it back.
That's
and he did make the right decision, going with his gut instinct.
Yeah.
You have to do sometimes. You can't just go by the conventional norms that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about, because I think this segues beautifully into one of the points that you also wanted to talk about was around consider what success truly means. Money is only as good as the good you can do with it. Because I think sometimes, if we do have an idea that comes across our desk or someone happens to mention it at a party, that if we immediately go to how much money can we make out of it, that often really will negate any opportunity whatsoever for, so many incredible things to occur that needs to be considered before we even get to that. Speak a bit more about this, especially when we're thinking about Christian entrepreneurs and business, building kingdom businesses. We're reminded that we need to stop putting money first. Ultimately, that is a goal that we want. But if we're only focusing on that, I think we've lost the bigger picture. Yes?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I was never one of those people who was motivated by money. I mean, you have to understand, from the moment I was like 10, 11, I'm thinking a life is like that. I go, I'm going to die. I mean, I saw people getting older. I saw them suffer. I mean, I didn't lose that message even at 10 years old. I used to talk to my parents about it. I used to get books. I used to read. And so in my generation, child of the 60s, I'm older, I mean, it was like making money. That was like the last thing I was thinking about. What do you do relative to life altogether, pain, suffering, death? I mean, these were like major issues. I guess it's unusual for a young child, but those were like really big issues to me. So if I was going to get into business, I mean, it would be as a secondary thing. My main thing was how to live a spiritual life, a life that had to do with God or energy or consciousness. Back then it was like getting enlightened and, the whole thing and the Eastern paths. And I mean, my journeys just went every which way you can't imagine. I spent my whole life in money. Making money was so secondary. I can't even tell. The fact that I've made money is bizarre to me. That my ideas have worked is bizarre to me, because literally that was so secondary. I can't even tell you. Finding happiness, that was senior for me.
Yeah. And the fact that, as you say so beautifully in the point that you made, when you think of the money that your business does generate and that you do end up generating from that, it's your choice as to what you do with it. And you can contribute to companies who are on the ground in developing countries and who are building up, mini economies, if you will, in those communities that really need that support. And when you look at it that way, then the more prosperous and abundant we are, the more we can bless others by giving and supporting them and empowering them to become self-sufficient and to grow their economies. And I'm sure you've got many stories that you've been able to do that as well. When you focus on the right direction and things happen, you can then contribute. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, all the monies from this company will be left to charities, Catholic charities that, I feel are doing work that I very much appreciate. When you get old and you don't have money, it's really, really hard. And there's so many people like that. When you're ill, you're old, you're poor. I mean, we people take these things for granted. You don't have it. It's so difficult. I want to be there for those people, particularly the elderly, particularly, you know, those who don't mind, who are poor, enough food, medical assistance, you know. That's where the monies are going to go. And I'd like to have it set up so that on my passing, all the money from the business, you know, trust will be set up that it will continue to do good.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes it worthwhile. Just making money for me. Yeah, again, as a kid, I knew you could give me a gazillion dollars, it would never work for me. It still wouldn't address, you know, suffering, death, you know, it wouldn't address all the issues that everybody, no matter how much money you make, is going to confront in your life.
Yeah. And, you know, the incredible legacy that you can leave because of the work that you've done and, you know, being passionate about that. But let's talk about something that I know many Christian business owners and businesses in general struggle with, and that is to build a successful business. They've got modest resources and, you know, just to have it scale even and be successful as major players. Share, what are some insights around this that we need to know?
Well, you know, these days, you know, people, you know, once the internet got big and people start in reality TV, people go, look how popular that lady is, Snooki on Jersey Shore. She hasn't done anything, but now she's a millionaire. Now he's a millionaire. He's a YouTuber. He's famous. They have money. They have money. Everyone gets this false sense of entitlement. Everybody thinks if they're not an instant millionaire or they're not like this, their lives are meaningless. They haven't done anything and they want to be just like them, you know. But you know what? It really takes time in reality. There are a few people who make it, you know, it happens. But let's be realistic. Building a brand, building a business for entrepreneurs really takes time. A good idea and patience and time. And everybody wants it like that. Doesn't you ever see these people who I remember this lady I was watching, she won an award. She must have been I don't know, she's maybe in her 60s and she won her first award. Yeah, you've seen her forever, and she goes overnight, you know, like it just happened. But you knew her whole life, you know, was like to get to this moment.
Yes.
And so I tell people, you have to be willing to put in the time and the patience. So, you know, what did I do? You know, worked at home. That's fine. Steve Jobs, Apple Computer, worked at home. Richard Branson, you know, Virgin Records and the whole Virgin line, still works at home, I do believe, you know. And I answer with my correspondence. Richard answers his correspondence. I mean, I always felt the secret when you're beginning was lean and mean, keeping your overhead down, and then because you're going to make mistakes, you're going to do things right, you're going to do things wrong. But if you're not carrying this big burden of overhead, you'll survive it. You know, you can survive those mistakes and you can learn as you're going along, but you really have to focus and keep everything. Don't be embarrassed. You know, I to this day, you know, in our industry, we're actually considered the top custom duck manufacturer in the world. I mean, my customers are like Harley Davidson, SeaWorld, Amazon's one of my customers. You know, I work at home. I want to make that really clear.
Is there any other better place to be? Seriously.
Tell me about it.
I love it. I'm in my studio. I've got an office that I'll go to meet clients, but I'm back here. I mean, I am an introvert too, so too many people, too many other human beings around me. But it's true. You don't have to have a high
in this day and age with the internet and outsourcing, you know, my factories, my art department, my warehouse, everyone is somewhere else. I mean, half the people I work with, if we pass each other on the street, we might not recognize each other, but they're really good relations. You know, we're really becoming good friends, and you can do it from anywhere. So you can work, you know, when they want to have film crews come in and do stuff here, they come over to the house. Yeah, they want to film, they film here. It's a nice house, but you know, like your house, I can see it's very nice. You know, the film crews can come here and film just as well as an office. Yeah. And so people don't need to be embarrassed about working at home. It's really, really more and more acceptable. And it really gives you a chance. And with the internet these days, boy, with a website, a cell phone, the internet, you know, I swear to God, you can compete with anybody. I see these major brands going under in the U.S., and I go, no surprise. Yes. No surprise. I could see that coming down the line ages ago, even before Amazon became the big company. I can see these brands were going to go through it, but you know, us little I always say to companies like CelebriDucks, I go, what does Cher say? She goes, at the end of the apocalypse, there'll be two things, Cher and the cockroaches. And I go, and CelebriDucks, the way I run it, I don't live extravagantly. I do so much of the stuff myself, and I let the business force me to the next level. I will not spend the money on next, but if it's something I really feel passionate about, and I really feel, okay, this, invest here. So like recently, I don't know if you had time to look at our website, but we had launched this line called Costume Quackers. They're yellow ducks that have the appearance of celebrities. They look like they remind you of Harry Potter, or they remind you of Prince or Donald Trump, or or Mad Max from Australia of the Thunderdome. But we do them as parody. I wish I thought of it 20 years ago. But once we did think of it, my lady friend actually thought of it. It wasn't even my idea. But once we did think of it, I spent the money like just boom, 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 boom. See, there is a time to spend money. When you road test something and you see it as traction, there's response, then you need to move quickly. You know why? You need to own your niche. Because once you've proven the concept, if you don't move quick enough, a bigger company can see that idea, and they have the resources. They can come in. So when I did the animation, once I did the Coca-Cola, I immediately, Anheuser-Busch, I told you, I locked it all up with everybody. So even if anyone wanted to do my idea, I'm already working with those people.
Yeah.
So for someone to get into the duck thing now and do these characters, it's kind of already being done, and they're not going to do it better than me. So that's how you lock up your brand. You move fast, move in your niche, own it. And then you kind of bulletproofed it, because you may not be in a huge niche, but let me tell you, you can make a lot of money in your niche if you're the guy.
Such a brilliant lesson, and a lesson I think that will have many entrepreneurs stumble, because what I hear you saying there, and what I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing, is they're trying to hedge their hedge their bets, if you will. Maybe not so necessarily Christian entrepreneurs, but other businesses. So what they do is they spread themselves out and see which idea goes. But what you're saying, when you kind of keep yourself lean, you have a look at what the market is, and if you really have that gut instinct and feel that this is a good idea, you go deep and you really focus and you concentrate and you develop that, because that means that, as you said, no one else can really come into that, because you're owning that. You're really seen as that influential voice owning that market. And then from there, I guess, as you said, you might have expanded the product offerings within that. But again, you went deep into that area before you looked at other areas. Because what happens, and this is, I think, a great lesson for all of us, is that the idea that we may have is fantastic, but we have to give it time to build momentum and really build solid foundations upon which the business can continue to grow. And a lot of us, we lose heart, or we get distracted, or we get despondent because it's not achieving what we want. But it takes, my husband is a builder, and he says often the biggest time in the job is the time when nothing seems to be happening. But that's when you're building the foundations in the ground. No one can see that. But then as soon as those solid foundations are built, then things can happen. The walls are built, the internals and everything. But if you don't build those foundations first in the building, guess what? It's going to come crumbling down when you try to put all of the layers on top of that. So that's a huge lesson, isn't it?
Just like my father said to me, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yes.
So if you have something and it's really, you see how much, when I do one of these costume quacker ducks, like those little Mr. Squawk or the floating stones, duck, I mean, they're so damn cute. But, if somebody can take me up to 6 months to do one of them.
Yes.
It takes a long, long time. You can't imagine. I mean, honestly, when I was doing the animation, I thought that was hard, because I was working with computer-generated images. It wasn't like they were hand-drawn. I had to get them out of the computer, work with the studios, find a way to get the resolution high enough to print on acetate instead of hand pen. What I went through to figure it out. But my secret sauce is, I always knew I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. I knew it. I never cared. I always knew my liabilities. I was fine with them, honestly, but I always was able to surround myself with people a lot smarter than me. And I listened to them. And that's my probably, I mean, I don't think much of myself, Anne Marie, trust me on this. But if I was to say, tell me one good thing about yourself, I'll say, I know what I don't know. And I know how to pull in people to complement my liabilities.
Yes. Well, that is traits of a great leader, isn't it? I mean, a humble leader is one that recognizes your own strengths and harnesses that to the good of everyone around and the team and for the business, but also looking at and not being ashamed to say, because there's no shame, I don't know how to do that. Show me. Because if we're there's that saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room, because how are you going to grow? How are you going to be put forward? And that's something that I was going to ask you about, because as you were sharing your story of how you had an idea, and one of the things I noticed that you said, and I had someone who knew this, and then I reached out to him, and then I had someone else. Your network really, and the relationships and friendships and collegial relationships you develop are so integral, because you just can't do it on your own, can you?
Yeah, I feel, I mean, talk about feeling blessed. I don't know where they came from, these people. You know, it's enough to make you religious, Anne-Marie, because literally, like angels dropping out of the sky. I mean, the people who have come into my life, it's not like I found them. You know, I mean, so if you look back on the most important people in your life and you try and figure out how that all happened and changed your life, it's miraculous. So yes, I did put out energy. I do try and find people, but in the end, the best people seem to have come into my life. And I'm amazed. I am to this day deeply indebted and grateful, because without them, you know, it wouldn't even, you know, I mean, the business would be nothing. None of both my businesses that became successful would have been nothing without these people. And I look at them as just geniuses. I can't believe how smart they are. I literally am in awe of these people. I go, God, I mean, they must have like incredible IQs and stuff. I go, that's certainly not me. But what is the one quality I can say about myself? I get along with people, you know, and for some reason in my business, that's been enough. Be able to, you know, bring all the, like a puppeteer, get everyone together, working together, and have good relationships with people. You know what? Don't undersell that quality as an entrepreneur. I can't read a profit and loss statement that intelligently, to be honest with you. I can't read a very obtuse business book. My business books are all stories about how companies evolve. I'm a storyteller. So for me, it's been my greatest thing that's really helped me is being able to, like I say, coordinate and get along with people. And I know entrepreneurs have to have a certain business sense, it's true. But what's most critical is they have to have a human sense of how to work with people and how to communicate and get along. That will go a lot farther, because what you're lacking in some of the practicalities, that's easy to pick up, have other people, you know, help fill in with that. But that ability to work with people and coordinate it and get along with people, that's something every entrepreneur really has to cultivate. And, you know, I mean, that's certainly Christian virtue, right? Our whole lives are about that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, there's such great lessons in that, because, you know, as you were saying, there are aspects of our business, if we want to keep it lean, that we can tap into, but there are some things that are just, it takes us far longer, and the output, if you will, that we generate is just not at the level than had we invested, or we've got someone on our team who can do that far better, far quicker, far, you know, more efficiently than we can. And I think it's recognizing our strengths. But how often do we put ourselves down and here, and I'm sure you've heard of this saying too, the imposter syndrome. You know, we always look, and comparison, we look at what other people are doing, and I think we completely negate what we do have, where our gifts and strengths lie, and the ability then to get the team around us and to influence them all, to, as you said, to collaborate, because together the output is something that we could never do on our own even if we tried.
Nobody can. You know, we really do need each other. And that's how businesses grow and they flourish. And you know what? The other thing about business is not just money to do good, which of course it is. And to me, that's the core. It's also to enjoy your life.
Oh, well, you know what? Part of my core values is fun. If something's not fun, then it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. It's true, because that motivates you to, you know, for me, it's important. If we can't laugh about something, even in the midst of real stress, it's kind of like, you know.
I know somebody, he told me he was starting a business. He was looking for something to do, and he was doing this thing of a disposable dog bowl, not disposable, but collapsible thing. And he was like a really powerful business, a competent person, and he could do a lot. I mean, he was certainly more talented in that sense than me. And I looked at him like I would look at, like a strange creature from in a zoo that I'd never seen before. I go, but why would you do that? That's a product you have no interest in. Even if it can make all this money, why would you spend your life doing something just for the money? I've never understood that concept. That's why I said when I saw the Mickey Mouse drawing, when I saw the Coke machines, when I suddenly had the idea of these celebrity rubber ducks, people go, boy, your life must be so much. We just come up with these ideas. Okay, we're going to do a duck here, and this, we're going to do it a parody of this one. And they say, your life must be so much fun. I go, yes. If it's not fun, what are you waking up to every day? You're like, oh gosh, I don't think I want to do that. But if it's something that's very inspirational, every day is like fun, creative. It's hard work. I mean, I won't tell you the stress of making.
Absolutely. But it's different, isn't it? There's a passion there and a drive. And I think you have to have that because, as you said, business has its challenges. You might have spent months building up to something and then you get a no, or it didn't have the outcome. And it's that where you need to pick yourself up and that vision that you had and that drive will often reach in to go, you know what, I'm just going to do it again. And I'm going to do it again. And you know what, I'm going to do it again because I know that it's going to work. I just need to find a different pathway. And if it's not,
and it takes time. Yeah, you know that story with the monkeys, the M field, were on that island. The monkeys were all washing their potatoes, and at a certain point in time, monkeys on the whole other side of the island who didn't even know these guys were washing their potatoes, they started washing their potatoes. They never done, and they in physics like the M field. At a certain point in it just something happens, and suddenly you see it more happening in other places, and so you have to understand that at a certain point, these ideas kind of ruminate and then they grow and then they can become something, but you have to give it its due course for it to evolve into something really wonderful. And so that's why I always say entrepreneurs have to have great patience.
Yes.
Great patience, because it will happen. It may not happen tomorrow. Like my ducks evolve, and at a certain point, bang, and then we had people calling us, and suddenly we turn on the TV and Jay on the Tonight Show, and they got our ducks on there.
Here it is.
And Conan O'Brien calls and wants
That's
to.
when you know your ideas made it when it's done.
Yeah, I mean Tonight Show, Conan. I mean I'll turn on the TV and see the ducks. And Dean says, "Isn't that your ducks on that set?" I go, "Yeah, It's like, but you have to be patient, for that to happen. And hopefully you have a good idea because it's something that you very feel passionate about, and other people seem to resonate that it's really, really cool and fun and different."
Yes. Well, I just thank you for sharing your story and your journey. I just love it. And as I said, I just love doing what I do because I'm the sort of person that also loves the behind the scenes. How do they do that? What were the troubles, the struggles? Because I think we can learn so much from people's journeys. That's the thing I was going to say is that, you might have an outcome or a goal, but how you get there, the journey, and if it's not fun or whatever core values that you've had, then why are you on that journey anyway? I think, and I think a lot of times if we bring it back to, if we're thinking of Christian entrepreneurs, God's given us each skills, gifts, talents, and they're there for a reason, and we will enjoy using that. And I think someone said, I can't remember who said that today, said God would not have you in a place or working in a business or even in a role that you didn't enjoy. And so that is true. And so how many people, this is where I feel so blessed, how many people get up on a Monday morning and work till Friday or Saturday as well that totally dislike what they do. And they just keep doing the same old thing. And yet, often as entrepreneurs, we're doing something that we are passionate about and getting to impact the world.
That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, isn't it? You at least can choose. You don't have to just take a job to survive. You're driving your destiny. You've been given a gift to create a destiny, creation, and to do something that really fits with who you are. Exactly. That's a gift.
Oh, it is a gift. It is a gift.
And if you use it right, it's the gift you can give to others.
Yes. Well, it's one of those sayings. I don't know if I'm going to be able to relay it so well. Sometimes what's in my head and what comes out is like two different things. But that's a good point. But it can also be a negative one in that, we are in control of our destinies. Yay. But that means we are in control of our destinies and the choices that we make, the decisions, the people we surround ourselves with, and everything that you've spoken about today is important so that we are taking the right steps forward and enjoying the journey along the way. Craig, it's such an honor speaking with you today. I've just realized I've got a few back-to-back today. So what I would love for you to do, if you will, is to share, because I'm sure everyone is sitting there poised, waiting to find out how can they find out about CelebriDucks, more about that. What's the best website and to connect?
Best website is CelebriDucks.com, like CelebriDucks, CelebriDucks.com, or info. They can write me. I actually respond to every email. Fantastic. Every phone call, every email. I actually respond to it. That's how I run my business. So they can call. They can even call me. The phone number is right on the website, the contact section. You know how you can't find a phone number to call people these days in the business? Every page, big writing. Anybody can call me anytime about anything, and I'll talk to them.
Yeah, that's so special. And I mean, from a point of view of, if you think for you in your business, when you're actually talking to people, there is so much knowledge and information that you can gather from that helps you in the decisions that you make in your business. I think sometimes it's a great lesson for all of us as CEOs to make sure that even if we're not able to be in that position, that we still keep our fingers on the pulse to connect with our audience, because ultimately at the end of the day, or our clients, they are the ones that we're in business for, to impart fun and enjoyment out of the ducks, or the people who are using those, whether on set or whether it's a gift or whatever it may be. And so important. Look, thank you so much for coming on the show. One of the things that I would love to do for you, and I'm doing with all of my guests, is just finishing off the show with a word of prayer. May I do that for you too, Craig?
Are you kidding? Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to speak with Craig today and just to hear about, the businesses that he's had, the insights that he's learned. Lord, there are so much learnings that we can take from today's interview. The most important, of course, of all, Lord, is to really be reminded, each and every one of us, of the gifts, the talents, the strengths that we have, and to really use those in our business, in our work that we do, obviously to honor you and to contribute back to the communities, which is so very important. Father, we just want to continue to ask for your blessings and your favor on Craig and his businesses and the people who are, really enjoying the CelebriDucks that he's using. We pray for your continued blessing on him and the way forward in his businesses. And we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much, Craig. It really has been an honor speaking with you.
Likewise.
I learned so much and am inspired by all of the stories that my guests share. And yours is certainly no exception. The history in that, just fantastic. But you know what? What I love of all is it's fun. It needs to be fun. If it's not, why are we doing it? So thanks once again for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, brought to you by BeTheDifferenceMovement.com. Changing the world one message at a time. Do you feel called to influence real change with your message? Join our supportive community of like-minded influencers, thought leaders, and disruptors at www.BeTheDifferenceMovement.com. That's BeTheDifferenceMovement.com.